There's my roadie when I need him. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Anjaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So tonight I picked out one of my favorite sections of the Bhagavad Gita. By the way, before I continue, my name is Dravida Dasa. Long-time editor for the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. And I've been here for a long, long time. 32 years. We have a class every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night at 7:15 to 8:15 on the Bhagavad Gita. You can come yourself, or you can tune in on our YouTube channel. You can consult our YouTubers there. Bhakta Tapas in the back. Or get our newsletter. Okay. So on this 15th day of August, is the 15th? Is the 15th? 15th day of August, 2021 in San Diego at the Sunday Feast. We're speaking on the 8th canto of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we'll be studying text 5, 6, and 7 tonight, which all emphasize the chanting of Hare Kṛṣṇa. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So those who know this verse can repeat. Antakale chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram yak priyati samadbhavam yati nastyatra sangshayaha. What Krishna says to Arjuna in answer to the question that Arjuna asked to Krishna, how can one know you at the time of death? And Krishna says, and whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Purport. In this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure, Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be as tolerant as a tree, taror iva sahishnuna. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare, so that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timbarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this 8th chapter, called Attaining the Supreme, begins with Krishna answering some questions from Arjuna, which were inspired by what Krishna said at the end of chapter 7. I won't get into all the details here, but one of those questions, as I mentioned, was how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? And that will be answered in the 3rd verse that we read, namely text 7. But here, Krishna is giving a central principle of Bhakti Yoga, which is to increase one's remembrance of Krishna progressively during life, so that at the time of death, one can successfully leave this world and not come back. Prabhupada introduced us to this wonderful phrase, go back home, back to Godhead, which from the very beginning became kind of an anthem for devotees. This is what we're aiming for. So what's implied there is that that's where we came from. Otherwise, why would Prabhupada would always say, go back home, back to Godhead. So this is a central point of the philosophy, is that this life that we're leading, first of all, is very temporary. You don't have to be a great philosopher to understand that. I remember working in a hospital back in the early 70s before I became a devotee. And I wasn't really studying yoga. I was starting to practice a little yoga, but I wasn't studying any philosophy. But later on I realized that all 4 of these basic principles of miseries of material life are there in the hospital. Birth, old age, disease, and death. They're right there in front. But notice how we tend to try to forget them and put them off in a corner. Of course, we try to have health insurance and deal with these things. But we're not really understanding the implication, the actual meaning of what these inevitable difficulties and miseries have implication on each one of our lives. And Krishna enlightens Arjuna at the beginning of this Bhagavad Gita, and he's teaching, not the beginning, but when he starts his teachings in the 2nd chapter, text 11, that we're not the body. This is the first thing you learn, I remember in the ashram, this phrase, aham brahmasmi, I'm spirit, not matter. And that's a central one. If you understand that and you realize what the implications are, it changes everything. Because it means that life is not just bounded between birth and death, and that's all we have to deal with. And we should try to be successful or enjoy as much as possible during that time or whatever. And then it's all over. It's not all over. It hasn't begun, and it never will end. I have this little mantra that I made up. Every body dies. Space. Every body dies. Nobody dies. Wake up, and open your eyes. You're not that body. You're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. That's practically what Krishna is saying right here. So that's a revolutionary concept, and the acceptance of that truth then leads to interest. Should lead interest into the rest of the philosophy. How can we make this our last birth? We don't want to come back. Do we want to really deal with all this one more time? Things are getting so crazy so fast. We should. That can be an impetus to become serious about the spiritual life. You know, we always think, well, yeah, I have plenty of time. You know, we don't have plenty of time. We have a certain number of minutes, hours, days, weeks, and years left in this body, and we should use it to our best advantage, which is increasing our remembrance of Krishna and our understanding of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness as spoken in the Bhagavad Gita, and apply it as far as possible in our life. So now in the next verse, Krishna gives the general principle that holds for every body who leaves their body, which they eventually will. So those who know it, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. I'm sorry, that's the last one. Yang vapi smaran bhavam chajatyante kalevaram tam tame vaiti konteya sadatad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. And of course, he refers to the soul, every soul, no matter what body you're in. Purport. The process of changing one's nature at the critical moment of death is here explained. A person who at the end of his life quits his body thinking of Krishna attains the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. Now, Prabhupada used this word nature in different ways. Here he's speaking about the spiritual world, the material nature, which we're very familiar with, and there's the spiritual nature where there's no birth and death and unlimited bliss. So that's the nature. And if we can remember Krishna at the end of life, we'll attain that transcendental nature of the Lord. But it is not true that a person who thinks of something other than Krishna attains the same transcendental state. This is a point we should note very carefully. How can one die in the proper state of mind? Maharaj Bharat, although a great personality, thought of a deer at the end of his life. And so in his next life he was transferred into the body of a deer. Although as a deer he remembered his past activities, he had to accept that animal body. Of course, one's thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. So this life creates one's next life. If in one's present life one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. That will help one be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendentally absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental or spiritual, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare, is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being at the end of one's life. Now, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which Srila Prabhupada said this movement is based on the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and of course the Nectar of Devotion which he gave us. He gave us all these essential books. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a long chapter near the end of the book, in the 12th canto, describing all of the degradation that happens in the Kali-Yuga. How the longevity decreases, how long you live, mercy decreases, the ability to remember things decrease, all these things that we are seeing all around us and experience ourselves. Confusion and difficulties increase, all the things that make it difficult to practice yoga. So there's a verse after all of this list, it's called the Bhumi Gita, where the earth has a song, kind of a lamentation song about what's going on in the Kali-Yuga. Then Śukadeva Gosvāmī has this key verse for Maharaj Parīkṣit. And he says, Kale dosha nidhe rajan, asti eko mahad guna, kirtanareva Krishnasya mukta sangha param rajat. This Kali-Yuga is an ocean of faults. Does anyone want to argue that it's not an ocean of faults? I don't think so. It seems to be getting more faulty every day. So it's an ocean of faults. We're experiencing them. But there's one very special quality of this age. And that is Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Vrajat. That simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, specifically mentioned here, Krishna, Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Vrajat, one becomes liberated from all of the attachments that bind us to this world. There's something that comes up again and again in the books called the knots in the heart. Knots in the heart, which refer to our myriad attachments that we developed in previous lives and this life which we can't fulfill in this life and which bring us back to try to fulfill in the next life. This has been going on and on for who knows how many millions of births. If we have no access to this transcendental knowledge, then we must be attracted in some form. Maybe mode of goodness, mode of ignorance, mode of passion, something like that. And if we have no training and no references, then the chances are very high we'll perform all kinds of sinful activity and lose this human form of life. This is a great gift. It's a great treasure. Only in the human form of life can we understand this philosophy, put it to practice, and learn how to control the urges of the senses that are pulling us away from Krishna. So we shouldn't waste any time and cultivate this science. And again, Prabhupada emphasizes the chanting of the holy name. This is the theme here. So then he gives us in the seventh verse. He begins with tasmat. So that means therefore. He's completing a little argument here. Krishna is tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayarpitamano buddhir Mamai Vaishyasya Sangshaya. It's interesting how the verse 5, practically a good number of you knew it, and then gradually the choruses grew, but they all fit together. So therefore, Arjuna, this answers his question, how can one know you at the time of death? I'll remember you. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your present prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without a doubt. Purport, short one. This instruction to Arjuna is very important for all persons engaged in material activities. That's us. The Lord does not say that one should give up his prescribed duty or engagements. One can continue them and at the same time think of Krishna by chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa. This will free one from material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Krishna. By chanting Krishna's names, one will be transferred to the supreme planet Krishna Loka, without a doubt. So, the answer is not to everybody join the ashram, which would be a little difficult anyway. Or, in other words, to give up your duties within a family or work, whatever it may be, and do something radical, because that will disrupt us so much we won't be able to practice. The answer, or the solution, is to integrate Krishna consciousness into your life. There's so many things we have that we can do. The environment in our home is so important. What pictures are on the wall, what music is playing, what you're doing in family life. You know, I mean, you could, as we know, when we visit some of our homes of our Indian-born congregation, they have a room which is dedicated to the deities, little deities there. They have regular worship. They offer the food. And all of this is, we have books and instruction manuals how to do that. In fact, on many of the books, I remember because I've been working on these books for so long, and we put out books periodically, such as Journey of Self-Discovery, other small books like that. Compendiums of Srila Prabhupada's lectures. And at the end, so I forget when we started to do this, so the late 90s, I think, or mid-90s. There's something written at the end by Mahatma Prabhu, who used to be here he was an integral part of the temple here. Now he's preaching all over the world. And he wrote something, Krishna Consciousness at Home. You know, how to set up an altar, how to chant on beads, simple instructions, how you can integrate Krishna consciousness into your daily life. Nothing radical. The point is to add Krishna, and gradually your consciousness will be transformed, and things that are impediments you'll be able to give up. So this is a central lesson in Krishna consciousness given right here. Now the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness is that not only, because this is a very, if you just take it as it is, okay, we don't want to come back again to suffer birth, old age, disease, and death, so I better chant. And the basis of that is fear. It's healthy fear. And actually that's a good way to get into Krishna consciousness. The threefold miseries, you know, which are inevitable. I mean, have we heard about this incredible earthquake that was just in Haiti, and these storms everywhere and the fires everywhere? Somehow We haven't had any disasters here yet. You know, we don't know. We're sitting on a fault, as you may know. You know, so it can happen at any time. So that's an important aspect of Krishna consciousness. Krishna says in the 13th chapter, when you read, there's a whole list there on elements of knowledge that we should try to cultivate. And one of them is Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshana, Darshanam. Many of you know this little phrase. Krishna says one should see the faults, you know, the unavoidable faults of birth, old age, disease, and death. This is the real problem of life. We're trying to solve, you know, so many different problems on a personal level or in a social level, but those are the all overarching problems of life. And what he doesn't add there, or that's there mentioned in the Bhagavatam in so many places, the threefold miseries. It's not that these four are not part of them, but that's a certain understanding which occur in everybody. And then periodically you have adidaivika miseries. These big storms and the earthquakes, you can't avoid them. They're caused by nature. Then you have adibhautika miseries, which are caused by other people, wars, you know, riots. Sometimes in the family, it can be unbearable. Whatever. And Prabhupada gives the example of bed bugs. Maybe you experienced some of that in India. Other living entities are causing you a problem. And then your own body and mind. You could be in a very peaceful atmosphere, very clean, there's no one else around, but you can be miserable because you have some mental disease or someone insulted you or something happened. Your own body and mind can give you problems. And every one of us has experienced all of these at one point or another. So this is material life. This is life in this material world. You can't avoid birth, old age, disease, and death. You can't avoid these miseries. So this is Maya Devi, Durga Devi. If you have, sometimes you see pictures, she has her trident, These are the threefold miseries. And she's pushing us forward in Krishna consciousness. Get serious. Don't live in a fantasy world that you can be happy and secure in this world. Get with it. But Krishna consciousness is so wonderful. Krishna is also inviting us from before. When you come to the temple, you're not thinking, most of you aren't thinking, I didn't used to think, boy, I got to get rid of those three miseries. Let me go to the temple. No, we come to see the deities. We come to hear the kirtan. We come to take the nice prasadam and enjoy the sangha, right? So there's the attraction of Krishna. So Krishna is attracting us. He's speaking to us through the Bhagavad Gita and his representatives, such as Srila Prabhupada and so many devotees. And at the same time, when we understand the philosophy, we say, this is serious business. I shouldn't just try to enjoy Krishna consciousness. I should try to practice seriously. And the fact of the matter is, I was thinking of a verse, as I was contemplating and speaking tonight. In the Nectar of Instruction, the Upadeshamrita, this is a small book by Rupa Gosvāmī, 11 essential instructions. It's really a wonderful book. And along with the Nectar of Devotion, those two kind of form a pair. One is a full science and one is a very, very concise instruction for devotees. So one of the verses is describing the sweetness of Krishna's form, qualities, name, and pastimes. Syat Krishna Nama Charitari Sitapya Vidya Pitto Patapta Rasanasya Narochikanu Kintvādanāda Nuninang Kalusaiva Justa Svadvi Kramad Bhavati Tadgana Mula Hantri. So all that Sanskrit means this, is that the holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna are by nature very sweet, very attractive. And it doesn't end. In other words, forever it's attractive, unlike material sweetness. But unfortunately, he's going on with this metaphor, when you get hepatitis, I once had a really serious case of hepatitis back in 1969. I was hospitalized for about a month, and I was just miserable. And you couldn't taste anything sweet, tasted bitter. It was weird, And but after some time, I was cured, and my normal taste returned. So that's the analogy, that when you're sick with the bile of ignorance in Maya, in illusion, the sweet name and form, qualities of the pastime of Krishna doesn't taste sweet. You don't have much interest in it, But it's wonderful that if you enter into the process of devotional service with determination, and understand that it's a process of purification, that gradually the natural sweetness of these returns. And before long, you're enjoying chanting, especially chanting the holy name, hearing about Krishna, serving Krishna. And this brings to mind a verse that is written by Raghunath Das Goswami. Now this verse is an instruction to his own tongue. You know, you can instruct your senses and your mind like that. And so he's instructing his tongue about concerning the holy name. Radheti nama navasundara siru mugdham Krishneti nama marodarbhadagara dugdham Savakshanam surabhiraga himena ramyam kritvata daiva pibame rasane chadarte. Rasane is the tongue, our tongue. So he says, an excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle tastes. Such is the name of Radha, by whom all three worlds are graced. Now when we chant Hare Kṛṣṇa, that Hare is Radha. Hara is evocative for Hara. An excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle taste. Such is the name of Radha, by whom all three worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet. Such is the name of Kṛṣṇa, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the fragrant, cooling spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. So this is a stage in Kṛṣṇa consciousness where you're not really thinking, how can I get out of this material world? Got to avoid the threefold miseries. Just by becoming attracted to Kṛṣṇa and serving him with love and experiencing this happiness, that's all taken care of. Just like some great devotees like Prahlad Maharaj or Haridas Thakur, they weren't thinking, okay, now they're after me, they're going to beat me, I got to, chant Hare Kṛṣṇa, and I won't feel anything. No, he just kept chanting. Haridas Thakur, he was beaten in so many marketplaces because he was converted from Muslim to Hare Kṛṣṇa, and the Muslims were ruling. So it was a problem for him. It wasn't really a problem for him, but they thought it would be. Shri Shri Gauranatai ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Girid Hari ki jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadraji ki jai. So this stage of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, where one is relishing at every moment remembrance of Kṛṣṇa, then one is not worried about liberation. He's not worried in any condition. What does Lord Chaitanya say? Mama janmani janmani shire bhavata bhakta rahoita ki tvayi. I don't want money, I don't want followers, I want beautiful spice, great education. I don't care. At birth after birth, let me have unmotivated, pure devotional service to you. This is Lord Chaitanya's teaching on how to pray as you chant. So, why? Because that unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service brings a bliss that just makes you oblivious to every other goal. And that is what the spiritual world is about. That is what we're aiming at. And that is our natural state. We're trying to find that happiness in the material sphere, but it's not to be found. Any happiness in this world is temporary. And yehi sangsparshita bhoga dukkha yona evate. That the very pleasures that you get from the senses are the source of your misery, because they end. And if you try to enjoy them too much, then that causes pain. We've all had experience eating a couple of too many pakoras or whatever it may be, and then it was fun while I was eating it, but now I have to. That's what material pleasure is like. There are limitations in the senses, but there's no limitation on the soul's desire to enjoy. This is our problem. So where can I find that unlimited happiness? In Kṛṣṇa, in the infinite ananda of Kṛṣṇa. Prabhupada writes in the first canto, second chapter. I think it's in the latter few verses. He talks about how Kṛṣṇa is anandamaya abhyasat, by nature full of bliss. We're part and partial of Kṛṣṇa. This is our nature. What happened to that? We're not always blissful. Why not? Because we turned away from Kṛṣṇa and we attenuated our relationship with him. We can't break it, but we can forget it. And therefore, we're in an unnatural state. You can never find unending happiness, ever-increasing happiness here. People will think you're crazy. Oh, that's just Pollyanna. Just try to grab whatever you can get, and then it's all over. But it's not all over. That's the first lesson. You have to come back. So we're also anandis. Prabhupada said we should try to become anandis. That means those who are always blissful. Sthāyi bhava. The point is, this is something that's already in our nature. Nitya siddha Krishna prem sadhika bonoi shobhanadi shuddhachete karehe udoy. Lord Chaitanya teaches to Sanatana Goswami. The eternal perfection of love of God, which is the source of all its happiness, is it's not something that's you bring out. We call the sadhya in this context. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte, when the consciousness is purified enough by the process of bhakti, headed by hearing and chanting the holy name and so many other vibrations about Krishna, that love naturally awakens, that prema naturally awakens. Isn't that something to strive for and hope for? That's actually the solution to all the problems, both on this plane, material plane, and beyond it. The reason why there's so much strife in it, and that's what Kali-Yuga means, by the way. Kali-Yuga means dissension and strife and war and all this. That's the name of the Yuga. Is because everyone is completely absorbed in this bodily concept, this false ego, so much racism, and it's all based on deep ignorance, based on the body, the color of the body. It's the lowest consciousness. And it causes so much strife and war and all of these different things. And you see the example of the devotees, pure devotees especially, they live minimally. The burden on the earth is minimal. They don't want anything more really than what's just necessary to keep body and soul together and enough facility for preaching. Now it's true, Prabhupada would fly around in airplanes and build big temples, but nothing was for himself. Everything was for Krishna and for us. We're sitting here now in this temple because of Prabhupada's effort. And those who he inspired, and I can give the name Gunagrahya Maharaj and others, and Badrinarayan Maharaj, who has been here for almost 40 years, if not more than that. Sustaining it, building it, and seeing what we have. Just so we can come together and chant Hare Kṛṣṇa, see the beautiful deities and all these different things. So that's the proper use of one's ingenuity, and for Lakshmi, TOVP, you've heard of that incredible temple being built. So this is how we can live in this world, become progressively Krishna conscious, and be hopeful. Otherwise there's no hope. There's no hope. You would be a billionaire or some poor fellow on the street. It all ends the same way. Krishna takes it all away. Either he's taking away your little shopping cart, or he's taking away all your mansions and your billions and your all of this stuff. There's no. But what is not taken away by any devotee who practices even a little bit is their advancement in Krishna consciousness, is to your eternal credit. I remember reading this verse in the second chapter when I first started reading Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and it was I think Krishna's near the beginning of the book, just for encouraging. He wants to be encouraged. Some of you know this one. Let's see how many. Neha vikramana shosti pratyavayo navidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato vayat. In this endeavor of Krishna consciousness, there's no loss or diminution. Whatever you are able to do in this life is with you. If you do 1%, you begin at 2% next life. And a little advancement on this path protects you from the most fearful type of danger that produces the most fear, which is losing the human form of life. You're assured of a human birth, because you need a human birth to keep doing your Krishna consciousness. Chanting your 2 rounds, to move up to 3 rounds, you need a human birth. So that's very encouraging. But also Prabhupada said we should try as hard as possible to achieve perfection in this lifetime with that determination. So that's basically what I wanted to convey today. If there's any discussion or questions, we can entertain that now. Do we have a mic we can hand around? If not, I can share a few more poems with you. Go ahead, Amoga. You got something? You're the mic carrier, huh? Okay. If somebody can control that boy. Haribol! Haribol! No, just encourage him to go through the door and stay on the other side. That's it. Hare Kṛṣṇa. So there's so many beautiful verses about the holy name, and how can we possibly share one with you if we don't share the first verse of the Siksastakam, which says it all. Those who know it can chant along. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam Shreyakaida vachandika vatadanam vidyavadhu jivanam Anandam buddhivardhanam padipadam purnamita swadanam sarvatmasnaparam param vijayate Shri Kṛṣṇa Sankirtanam. All glories to the chanting of Shri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge which will take us to life's goal, the chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's name is sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention as I earnestly request, please chant Shri Krishna's holy name and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. The whole movement is based on that one verse. So, Lord Chaitanya, he wrote this Siksastakam. Now, just something you may not know about the Siksastakam. It wasn't written as an ashtaka. Many times the Goswamis, they'll write ashtakas, like the Kunjbari Ashtaka, 8 verses, and then the 9th verse telling you the benefits of chanting it and remembering it. There's no 9th verse for the Siksastakam. He wrote those verses at different times. They were all concluded in a book called the Padyavali, which is Rupa Goswami's own nectar file. Every verse is special. He wrote maybe a dozen of them, but they're all by great souls. And they're scattered throughout the different parts of this Padyavali. It's almost 400 verses. And then it was assembled. I don't want to say this for sure, I'm not positive, but I think it was assembled as the Siksastakam by Krishna's Kaviraj in the final chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita itself is such a wonderful book. You should all have it in your home, or at least read it online for free, because it's the ultimate shastra, the ultimate instruction for devotees following Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It has so many wonderful pastimes and so much philosophy presented very systematically by the wonderful transcendental genius of Krishna's Kaviraj. So, I think we're going to go to 7:15. So, I'll give you a few more shlokas and do the rest of the Siksastakam if we do one verse. So the next verse now, Lord Chaitanya starts lamenting. He's taking the role of someone who has no taste for the holy name. Nam namakadi bahudani jasarva shaktis tatrapitani yamitak smaranena kalaha etadrishita vakripa bhagavan mamapi durdaivamindrishamiha janinanuragaha. Krishna, Govinda, and Keshava too, your names have no end, and in each of them you have invested your potencies, leaving none out. Whenever we want, we can chant them without the slightest restriction of time or of place. O Lord, who can fathom your infinite grace? But I am so wretched, devoid of all shame, that I haven't developed a taste for your name. How to get the taste? Next verse, the most famous of all. Oh, we can all chant together, I hope. Trinadapi chuni chena, tarorapi sahishnuna, amanina manadena, kirtaniyak sadaharihi. More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, to think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant His name incessantly until the final hour. So this is the advantage of the Kali-Yuga, because once we look around, we can see how rough this age is, and we have to, who are we? You know, the fact that we're taking birth in this age, and so we should be more humble than a blade of grass. And you have to be tolerant to do anything in this world. So be tolerant than a tree. And try not to be puffed up, because it's just false plumes. We have nothing to be proud of. Give all honor to others, especially devotees. And with this mood of humility, tolerance, and lack of pride and false prestige, then when you chant, you're really calling out to Krishna from the bottom of your heart. Please engage me in your service. Save me from this age, from my own bad tendencies and all that. That sincerity of chanting makes all the difference. And so Lord Chaitanya teaches us how to preach, how to pray in the next two verses. Nadanang najanang nasundarim kapitam va jagadish kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavata bhaktira hoitukitvahi. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. And then he's addressing a Jagadish. This is kind of a name of God, but it's a generic name of God, Lord of the universe. Now he's addressing the prayer to Krishna in Vrindavan. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram. By the way, it's tanuja, not tanuja. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavambodho kripaya tavapada pankaja stitadhuli sadrisham vachintaya. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace, consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. And then he starts praying for a specific advancement in devotional service. Nayanangaladashadaraya vadanangaladudhayagera pulaka nachatang vapukadatabhanamo grahane bhavishyati. Tears streaming from my eyes, my voice choked with bliss, the hair upon my body standing up in happiness. When will all these signs of rapture decorate my limbs as I chant your holy name, the monarch of all hymns? And then the last two verses, Lord Chaitanya is completely in the mood of Radharani, and this is beyond our imagination, but he's revealing his mood as Krishna in the mood of Radha praying to Krishna. Yugaitang nameshena chakshusha prabhashaitam shunyahitam jagatsavam govinda vidahe name. Every moment drags on like a million years or more. From the rain clouds of my eyes the tears in torrents pour. This whole creation is nothing but a vast and joyless void. O Govinda, by your absence I am being destroyed. So this is exactly according to the mood of Lord Chaitanya. The last 12 years he's staying in Jagannath Puri, always in this mood of separation. Agonizing, but at the same time the highest bliss. Who can fathom that? And finally, this last verses stating the essence of Radharani's mood in relation to Krishna. Ashlishava paradatang penashnumam darshanan mahatang karotuva yatatava vidadhatu lampato mat prananatas tusahevanapara. Let Madhava embrace this maid who's fallen at his feet, or let him trample me, O my most ardent hope's defeat, by never giving me a chance to see him anywhere, thus shattering my heart and plunging me into despair. You see, he is a restless libertine and not a saint, so let him act in any way he likes, without restraint. Yet though his cruel and crooked ways may cause me constant woe, Krishna is the only Lord my heart shall ever know. And then there's no ninth verse, as I mentioned, but Krishna's Kaviraj has written one, what they call a Palashuti, the result of studying this. I don't know the Bengali, but he says, these 8 essential verses Lord Chaitanya wrote to teach the practice and the goal of chanting Krishna's holy names. Day by day, whoever sings this hymn will surely reach a little closer to perfection, spotless Krishna prema. And on that note, we'll close. Thank you for your attention. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. If you want any of that poetry, ask some of the locals here. They can give you my email address, and I'll send it to you. My little poetry file for free. Hare Krishna.